Welcome to Code Mantra's Accessibility Insight interview series. I'm Barry Bealer, Senior Vice President of Strategic Alliances at Code Mantra, and your host for today's session. Joining me for Where is the Accessibility Industry Now segment is Michael Johnson and Ian Smith. Michael is the Director of Content Partnerships at Benetech. He has 30 years worth of experience on the blend of publishing, technology, and institutions. In this role, he works directly with publishers, conversion houses, technology platforms, and educational institutions to help them understand and implement processes that allow for fully born accessible content to get from authors all the way through the EPUB ecosystem to the end reader. Joining Michael is my colleague, Ian Smith, who is our Director of Accessibility Platforms and Solutions at Code Mantra. Ian has been a technologist all of his career and more recently architected Code Mantra's document accessibility remediation platform called Accessibility Insight. He is a frequent speaker at accessibility trade events and writes about accessibility issues and topics on our company blog. Thank you both for joining me today for our Accessibility Insight interview series focused on where is the accessibility industry now. Michael, you work with many different types of companies and organizations across the globe to verify and validate they are making content accessible. Can you describe for us what the accessibility market is from your viewpoint?
Sure, that's a great question, Barry. A lot of this marketplace tends to be hidden from the average viewer, and so I use a couple of stories to explain it. The first one's about redheads. So a lot of people don't understand the scope of people with print disabilities. So in fact, there are more blind people in the world than there are people with red hair. So you ask yourself as a business person, as an educational institution, as a publisher, as a professor, would I put practices in place which would prevent redheaded people from having access to my content and getting the full benefit of reading it? Well, one would hope the answer would be, of course not. But there are more blind people than there are people with red hair. So that's a market which is typically ignored if you're not in a fully born accessible environment. Now, people with red hair are typically easy to spot if you look out into a crowd. The much larger market here is people with dyslexia. There are more people with dyslexia in the world than there are people who are left-handed. So again, I ask you the question, would you put practices in place at your educational institution, your public library, your government agency, your publishing house, which would prevent left-handed people from consuming your content? Again, I hope the answer would be no. But if you're not fully accessible, you are preventing a group which is actually larger than left-handed people, those with dyslexia, from being able to effectively read your content. So that's just two examples, of which I have many. But just to kind of give folks a scope of the market that we're talking about here. Red-headed people, left-handed people, the accessibility market for print disability is larger than both of those. So that's just something to hold on to, a picture to paint, and helps people grasp the size of this marketplace.
So Ian, Code Mantra works with many types of businesses and organizations as well, but our view of accessibility may be a bit more narrow than Michael's. Can you provide Code Mantra's view of the accessibility market?
Absolutely. And, there's a great picture that Michael painted. The way that we're viewing it, I see Michael's picture as the consumers or the ones that need this accessible material. We are focused on those that are really producing the material. So we are targeting and assisting, your large educational institutions, your educational publishers, and your government agencies. Certainly with the recent pandemic, there's been a lot of demand, an increased demand even for digital and therefore born accessible content. So we are, we're viewing it in that way, certainly with the end desire to serve all of the redheads and the left-handed people. So that's how we would view the market today, Barry.